Hey everybody, it's Tuesday. That means it's Tech Tuesday. And today I'm going to be talking about NetFlow, as you can see. I'll be right back. Thanks for joining me. I'm Rick Uzzi from Zecorum, and today I wanted to talk about NetFlow. So I wanted to present a little bit of information about what that is and kind of what it can do for you, but then also show you what that data looks like when you put it into a NetFlow Collector that can then display that with some nice graphs and charts. So let's get started. NetFlow. So first, again, what is it and what can it show you? That's kind of what I want to go over here in the beginning before I demonstrate this thing. So over here, start that going. There we are. So NetFlow is something that was originally developed by Cisco. So back in 1996 or so, they came up with this way of tracking this information. So it was originally something that they did, but it was basically opened up to everybody. So it's now kind of a widely used standard, so to speak, for collecting and analyzing network traffic flows. So it is being used by other vendors. For example, Juniper, I think, calls theirs JFlow, and there's some other names out there. But basically, lots of router and switch vendors are incorporating or have already incorporated this into their gear so that they can present this NetFlow kind of information, and then that can be used to analyze what's going on in the network. So NetFlow basically is going to monitor and then record all of that traffic as it passes through the interfaces of routers and switches, and with all of that information that's being gathered, there's a lot that you can do with that it will help you with, a lot that you can look at. It's currently on version 9, which added IPv6 support. And actually there's something called IPFix that you may have heard of. So what's the difference? Well, some people are calling IPFix NetFlow version 10. So basically, again, NetFlow was developed by Cisco, but IPFix is something that was developed by the IETF. So it's an IETF protocol, as you can see here, created based on the need for a common universal standard of export for Internet Protocol flow information. So basically they were looking at more of a standard, not something that was proprietary. The IPFix standard defines how IP flow information is to be formatted and transferred from an exporter to a collector. I'll talk about those two things. And then again, previously many data network operators were relying on Cisco Systems' proprietary NetFlow technology for traffic flow information export. So IPFix is kind of what a lot of people are moving to. NetFlow is still widely used, but I think IPFix now, it's almost synonymous the way people use the two terms. So you may hear it both ways. I'm going to be referring to things as NetFlow because that's what's been around for so long. And IPFix, I'm thinking of IPv6. IPFix was really developed around Cisco's NetFlow version 9. So they're very similar. Basically, they look very much the same. There's a little bit changed under the engine. They've added a few things, but you can look at it as kind of the next version of NetFlow. So what is NetFlow? What kind of information do you get? Well, you get IP flow information in NetFlow packets. So basically, when a packet gets to a router or a switch, then that router, for example, is going to determine what is it going to do with that. Is this something it's supposed to be routing? And if it is, it will take this information that you see here, IP source, IP destination, the source port, the destination port, the class of service, the layer 3 protocol type like ICP, IMP, not a network engineer. Interface, bytes, so it looks at how many bytes were transferred. It takes all that information, and then it puts that in a cache, and then it sends it on. And as more packets come in, if they match that first one that it saw, so basically the first time it comes in, it then starts this flow, and it starts to track that information. And as more packets come in that match that with the same source and destination and ports and class of service, it will then increment the number of bytes, so it'll start counting the bytes as the additional packets come in. So basically, you could look at it as kind of a communication between two endpoints. So if you've got, for example, a subscriber if you're a broadband provider, if you've got a subscriber and they're going to a website and getting information, downloading web pages, then you could look at that as one communication flow. Or if somebody's streaming something and you've got those packets coming in, you could look at that as one data flow. So all of that gets stored in this cache. So you've got this NetFlow cache, And then as that, once that expires, so once that basically that connection is torn down, let's say somebody was streaming something and then they cut that off and the stream is over, then that will stay in cache for a little bit. And then once that expires, then that will be exported. There's an NetFlow export, and that exports to a collector. And then there's a couple of things you can do with that. You can look at NetFlow information just through a CLI. For example, you can log into the command line interface and look at all of the data on a screen. Not very pretty. Takes a little bit of an engineer type to go in and do that, and obviously it's kind of hard to visualize things. A lot of people will do that though. That's how they use NetFlow. But also you can have this NetFlow collector sitting out there where you've got hardware and or software that will take that data and then put it in a really nice visual format for you. And you can make all kinds of decisions about that. And that's what I was going to show today, is what that can look like. So, and here's just a simplified kind of example of what's going on here. So again, if you've got your web out here in your web server, and this is, let's say, your router, these are your subscribers here. So you've got data coming in and out, from the internet, maybe a web, like I say, web server here, gets to the router. The router then says, is this something I'm supposed to route? Yes or no? And then it's going to route that back and forth between the two endpoints. And as it's doing that, it's collecting that NetFlow data. And once those packets come in, and before it's routed, it then sends that. Then it sends that into the NetFlow cache, and then eventually to the NetFlow collector. So that information is there and available. So what can you do with this? There's lots of things you can do with it, but kind of the main things would be monitoring your network traffic and your users, right? So this will give you an idea of how much traffic is flowing through your network, your top protocols that are being used, your top talkers, where the traffic is going, what kinds of sites, what kinds of applications are using it, where geographically it's going, those kinds of things. Help you do troubleshooting. So if you're having network issues, this gives you really pretty deep insight into the traffic. Now, this is not deep packet inspection. This is not where you're actually looking inside the packets. So it's not anything that you need to be concerned about there for net neutrality or anything like that. This is more just looking at these network flows. So you've got, again, network issues. If there's any slowdowns or spikes in traffic, you can look at this and see kind of in a granular detail where this is coming from. So again, you could look at it geographically, see if that's where the spike's coming from or which applications are doing that. For security, it might be a DOS attack, so it can help with that, detecting anomalies in the traffic, such as a denial of service. And then capacity planning. So if you have a really good insight into your bandwidth use, where it's going, who's using it, what applications, what interfaces, then you get a pretty good idea of how you can do capacity planning. So there's a lot you can do with it. So what I was going to do now was show that. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to that. See if this works here. And there we are. Okay, so let me make that full screen. So what we're looking at now is a network monitoring tool that we offer called NetVision. We call this NetVision. And this is network monitoring and management as well. It includes NetFlow. So I'm going to show the NetFlow portion of that today. I decided when I was looking at this, there's so much in here that I thought people would be interested in, that next week, the same time, 3 o'clock on Tuesday, I'm going to go ahead and show this portion of things, which would be your kind of your network management, auto discovery of devices and what's going on in the different interfaces, those kinds of things. So I'm going to show that next week. But today I'm going to be looking at NetFlow, which is called Traffic Insights in here. So I'm just going to launch the Traffic Insights or the NetFlow dashboard, and we'll see what the information this will pull up. So here you can see, it's a little small on my screen, probably hard for you guys to see too, but I'm maybe looking to the left here as I try to see things a little bit better. So you can see here just an overall look at your traffic, and this is over this period. You can change the state range, but this is just looking at basically the last 2 days here of information. Whoops, I clicked on filters. So, and you can see the breakdown. So I can see the application breakdown, and I can hover over any of these things on any of these charts and get more information actually in these charts here. So for example, encrypted tunneling makes up a good portion of it, and that's because so much stuff is encrypted today. The good news about this application is it's better than a lot of other NetFlow kinds of applications in that it can actually break down a lot of what's encrypted, and it knows what it is. So it can tell you, for example, you can see a lot more about some of these other applications that are in there. They're able to break that out for you. So, and again, if you hover over stuff, I can see that this is 1.4, this encrypted tunneling is 1.4 gigabits per second, or about 32, really 33% of the traffic. Media streaming, 1.3 gigabits per second, about 31% of the traffic. So you can go down the row there and see what everything's doing. I can also look at the same thing here, and I can do the same thing here. And on here on this, this is by time, so I can see what things are doing over time. So here at my peak, for example, on media streaming, I'm looking at, what is that, 3.2 gigabits per second, 32.7% of the total of 9.9 gigabits per second. And if I go to the lower part here, then I'm looking at 27.2% of a total of 2.4 gigabits per second for that. 652.1 megabits per second is what it has there for the total. So it's 27.20% of the total of 2.4 gigabits per second. So a lot of information there that, again, you can look at. You can also, down here, you see this little area. I can zoom in on this, and I've got my little zooming area down here. So what I want to do is not completely on top of each other, because you can see this graph, this chart ends here, but this little zoom area goes to here. So what I want to do is look for the part that I want to zoom in on, like for my high points. Or here I see a slight little peak there at about a little bit, is that before 6 a.m.? So I'm looking here, and I can just go ahead and drag that a little bit, and that's going to zoom in, and then I get a zoomed in version of that. And again, I can do the same thing that I was looking at on the chart there, but this gives me a little more granular view, and it's going to adjust everything that way. I just click on here and get rid of that, and go back to the full time period. Now the other really nice thing here is I can drill in on any of these particular applications. So media streaming is going to be pretty interesting, I think. Let's look at encrypted tunneling first so we can see what that makes up. So you can see the vast majority of that is, what is that, SSL. So, encrypted websites, and so many web pages these days are encrypted that you're going to see that. Your next one down is this, whatever this QUIC is, QUIC. But I could click on that, and I can just see that information right there. And my filters, whenever I click on something, I can add a filter manually here by typing in stuff, keywords, countries we'll see geographically in a minute. I can do that, or when I click on something in a chart, it's going to automatically put that filter in, and that filter shows up here, so I'm just going to uncheck that. And let's take a look at media streaming. So when I click media streaming, this is going to give me a pretty good breakdown of some of the popular media streaming kinds of applications. So you can see YouTube here, Netflix, Twitter, or not Twitter, excuse me, Twitch, Hulu. So looks like the top, so this is YouTube, you'd expect that to be, and then you've got Netflix right below it, so you can see right here, top to bottom, but you can see the data that's being transferred. And I can click on these as well, any of these, just to see that. So this will be Netflix, and I can see the usage over time. I'm going to go ahead and remove that filter. And I've got all kinds of things in here, games, various versions of that, different games. There's Minecraft, that's a popular one with my kids. Again, I'll remove the filter right there. So very easy to navigate in and out of this, and I can really get into some pretty good detail. I can also click on any of these as well, or any of these to do the same thing, to put that filter in place. This would be for my web traffic right there. So we'll go ahead and remove that. So that would be your breakdown of applications. So you can see how that would be really helpful, so you get an idea of what subscribers, if you're a broadband operator, what subscribers are looking for, or looking at, I should say, so that you can kind of plan capacity, but also know maybe what kinds of things they're interested in. You can maybe use that for marketing purposes. So you get a lot of information there just from the application breakdown. And I can also go to protocols now. So I'm going to click that over here in the left menu. Look at protocols, and this is going to give me a breakdown of that. So I see TCP, and you would expect that to be the highest. And I've got UDP, and I've got IPsec, there'll be a tunnel, I think. And then you've got a few other things, ICMP. So you can click on any of these, but you can then, same thing down here, you always get your chart, you get your time. If you want to look at a particular period, you can zoom in on that. on any of these things. And do that. And you can see, again, a little bit more granular time-wise. So I'm just going to click on that. Remove my little filter here, go back. So again, TCP is the one that you would expect the most of, but I can zip in on that. So that would be my protocols that I can look at. This is interesting. So I've got IPv6 here. So I can get a look at the usage of IPv6. That would be, again, helpful maybe for capacity planning or IP use, IPv4 versus IP6. I'm sure there's a lot of things. This network, some of you IT guys are looking at this. You maybe go, oh yeah, I know what I could do with that. You know, I don't see probably all the possibilities that you would. Next, this is real important. So this is your top ends. These would be your top talkers, top destinations, top addresses, top sources, those kinds of things. So let's see. I think I've got IPv6 checked here. So that's one other thing when you've got a filter on. It's important to remember if I've got a filter on here that that is now, anytime I go to any other page, that filter is enabled. So right now I'm looking at IPv6 and I'm looking at my top end. I can take that off by clearing the filter right there. And it will reload with everything. So you can see here your top source addresses. I've got Google Video again, maybe YouTube, could just be Google Video. I've got Netflix, Facebook, probably video, could be Facebook itself. Some media stuff. There's Hulu, Hulu Stream. There's some images, Apple. So again, you can see the breakdown there and the top source addresses. Then you can see your top destination addresses. Who on your network is using the most? Okay, so here's your top guys right here in order. So you can see that. Got your top conversations. This is a particular website right there. Looks like images, Apple, Activision.com. It was a gaming thing. Could be people doing updates or something. Images, Apple again, and then over here you've got your top ports. So you get your TCP and your UDP, excuse me. So again, your top end here, that's your summary, and you can look, really when you go into any of these, you're going to be looking at the same thing that we're looking at here, just bigger. So if I go to top conversations, for example, that should load, I think, that same chart. Yeah, basically that same chart in the bigger window here. And as before, I can zoom in if I need to and just see what was happening during a particular time. So this can be helpful if you want to know if there's a change in these things as you go. You can see a big difference. You know, these two are very close together here, whereas here during more of a peak time, this is still much higher right there. So I think that's helpful as well. So, and then you've got your top ports here. All of this stuff that you drill on is just basically going to be putting those charts right up here in the center as opposed to in that windowed format there. And then I think this is very interesting. So you've got your geolocation. So this will help you figure out where your traffic is coming from and going to. So right now we're looking at the source. So we can see, a lot of info in the United States. And you can click on any of these. Like this is all considered the US. If I click on that, I'm then just going to be looking at that information. You see it, everything else is white. I can look at cities here, the top cities that we've got, where stuff is coming in, information is coming in. This is a country filter. Right now I'm filtered on the United States of America because I clicked on that. I can go ahead and I'm going to go up here and remove that filter. Look at the whole world again. So now when I go to countries, you can see I can pick a country. Any of these that I've got traffic coming from, I can pick a country and I can apply that as a filter here if I wanted to do that, or I can click on the country. So if I want to see, whoops, clicked the wrong thing. If I want to see what's going on in Russia, I can click Russia, and then I'm going to be zoomed in on just Russia, and I can see Russian Federation is how that's being listed, Moscow, Oblast. I can't pronounce half these names, I'm sure, so I'm not going to try. But you can see the various cities, but you can also go in here and see it in a table format and see where the most transfer is going from on those. And again, I've got that filter there, but if I want to look at where is it? Here's the X. So if I want to look at another country and it's one of these small ones in here and I'm not sure what's what, I can go in and I can say I want to look at just Ireland, for example. I'm not sure, it'd be kind of hard to find. And there I'm looking at just Ireland. And then I can look at the cities, Dublin, and it's got Ireland. Interesting. Ireland. I don't know if that's a city in Ireland or they're just lumping stuff together there. And you've got your other cities here. Cork, I've heard of that one. So again, I will clear Ireland from here. So that's your source, and then you can do the same thing on destination. So this will be looking at destination. You see, again, it looks similar. You know, you don't have as much going on over here. So this is the destination where stuff is being sent out versus coming in, as you might expect. And you know, you can look at. Let's see if I go back to source. I was thinking I could see. Maybe I can. I was thinking I could see what the information was coming from here. I don't think I can, at least not in this. Maybe it's in the flows. So the last thing I was going to show was the flows. So I go in here. And yeah, this is going to show me, I think, a little bit more of what's going on here. So this is just the raw flow data. So if you were, this is kind of more what you would see if you went into a command line interface. You'd probably still have to, you know, type in a bunch of stuff to get all of this information. But here it's presented in one big table. So you can see your start and your end times of this flow, your source address, port, source port, destination address and port, your protocols, your ASNs, source and destinations, your countries. So here we're looking at Russia, destination country US. Do I have? Oh, I still got a Russian filter on there. So again, I'm going to clear that. So now I got everybody. So I was looking at Russia there. So same thing. So destination country, bytes, packets, and then again you've got the application here. So if I did want to put Russia in there again, let me go ahead and do that. Add a filter. So I'm going to go country, and we'll do Russia. There's Russia. Oop. Russian Federation. So I'm going to add that. I think that will do it. I have to go back to the map because I've not done this before. Let's just hit apply. Russia. You know what? I'm just going to go back to the map. I've not played with this. So if I go back to the map, and I'm just going to click on Russia, get that in my filter, then I'm going to go to my flows. So now I am looking at Russia. So now as I look at this, I can see what these applications are. So that's, I've got FaceTime there. So I guess somebody's talking to somebody in Russia over FaceTime. You've got, again, FaceTime, you've got some SIP, voice call, SSL, so it's a secure Jabber. So somebody's using a little internet chat to talk to somebody in Russia. So you can see what's going on there in a particular country. So I think that's interesting. I mentioned, you know, I was going to show that and I didn't, so I just saw SIP there. So I can also go, you know, back here to this main page. I go to VoIP, and this will give you kind of a breakdown on your VoIP traffic. So I can see there's my SIP traffic. If I'm doing, let's say, VoIP service, I've got FaceTime that I can see, and I've got NGCP right there. So you can see the breakdown. So on any of these applications, you can see that breakdown. So let me go back to, I'll remove Russia. That was actually Russia I was just looking at. So that's there's my full screen, no filters. So that's NetFlow. You can see it's really pretty, but also there's a lot of information here that you can use to help you manage your network. As I say, this is something that, you know, can help you do capacity planning, can help you troubleshoot problems, look for network anomalies, those kinds of things. As you start to see spikes, you know, it's very visual. If you see something going on, you can drill in on that. Then when you drill in on that, you can look at the protocols, you can look at the applications. It really gives you a good idea of what's going on with your traffic at that time. So, and again, next week, what I am going to do is I will go over this part of the application, which is the network monitoring, network management. You know, you can see the network map, you can roll over, you can drill in and get information on the specific devices, the interfaces. So I'm going to cover that next week at 3 o'clock. But hopefully this was helpful for you. If it was, please give me a thumbs up on the video And if you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and click the subscribe down on YouTube and click the little bell. And when you click the bell, you'll be notified when I'm live. Also, if you'd like some information on this product, NetVision, let us know. You see our contact information here, and then also you got our phone number, our email address. You can also go to netvision.net, and you can pull up a microsite about that and learn all about it. So thanks for joining me today for Tech Tuesday. And again, I will be back next week at 3 o'clock, as I always am. And next week, I'll be going over the network management and monitoring portion of NetVision. Thanks for joining me. Take care. Bye-bye.